This is April the 24th, 1970, and this is the day after the birthday of the most famous of all bards, William Shakespeare, who was born April the 23rd, 1564. And we shall never forget being in the room, in the director's room of the Kanawha County Library on this day. And sitting around the table here with me are Mr. Winovich, who is the library director, Mrs. Fannie Cobb Carter, whom we shall interview today, and I, Miss Stevenson Norman. We are here participating in the Oral History Project on the history of Charleston. And the aim of the project is to record the voices, to interview rather persons like Mrs. Fannie Cobb Carter, persons who are fortunate enough to have lived long as she has, and persons who know a great deal about the history of Charleston. Now, Mr. Winovich, if I say that the way...
You stated it beautifully, Mrs. Norman. I certainly couldn't add anything.
Is that so? And now we shall get right down to the main point. We'll begin with asking Miss Fannie, and I call her Miss Fannie because she is endearingly known in Charleston by many of us as Miss Fannie. Miss Fannie, where were you born and when?
I was born in Charleston.
Right on,
in 1872.
I was afraid that they weren't going to hear that. I wanted that to be heard, Miss Fannie. You were born when?
In Charleston, 1872, September 30th.
1872, and then how old are you now?
97 years old.
That's just wonderful.
What part of Charleston was that, Miss Fannie?
Near the old library, just about 3 doors from the old library on Dickinson Street.
Dickinson Street then?
Yes,
Was that
near the old library.
Now, who were your mother and father, and what did your father do? What did your mother speak to?
My father was a laborer, of course, and my mother was a maid.
Your mother was a maid?
Yes. I'd hate to go up Garnet Street because I got in and out the doors and so often that all of them that I'll have to tell you that in the next story, how many places she was.
Were there any brothers and sisters, Miss Fannie?
No, I don't have any brothers. I had one little sister, but she died just when. So my mother just had to look after one.
In what schools were you in?
That was something that I was afraid I'd miss it. I graduated from Charleston Public Schools and went to Storer College at Harpers Ferry, West Virginia.
Miss Fannie, you went to the schools here in Charleston? You finished? So who were the teachers at that time?
Mr. Davis.
Oh, is that so?
Yes, ma'am. My uncle was a teacher in school, you see, at the same time.
Well, what school was this, Miss Fannie?
Charles, it was right over here on Quarrier Street. Right on Quarrier Street. Right
Where on Quarrier?
Just above Dickinson. The Colored Methodist Church was on the corner. The Colored Public School was next, and my cousin lived the next. And all up that street was a lot of colored.
When you say the colored, you mean the Simpson? What is
The Simpson Church was on the corner of Dickinson and Quarrier.
Yes.
And the colored school that I graduated from was the next door.
Now, you said Dickinson and Quarrier. I'm trying to visualize Dickinson and Quarrier. In one corner we have the Charleston Area Chamber of Commerce. Another corner is Guthrie and Bean. The third corner is this Savings and Loan. And the fourth corner is this little park-like thing. Which of those corners?
I think it was Dickinson and Quarrier.
That's it.
Dickinson and Quarrier.
Which of those?
Which of the
corners?
I think it's on the corner near Corral and Richardson. In that area where they made it. Yeah, it's not near Corral and Richardson, but I was trying to tell him the corner.
But it's on this side.
Yes, not across the street. Not across the street where you were. Well, I think we just leave it there. It's on the corner of Dickinson and Quarrier Street. All right. In what school did you first teach, Miss Fannie?
I first taught in, this Charleston Public Schools. It had no name, and I could tell you where, but it had no name. It's just the Charleston Public Schools. It was on the corner of Lewis and Jacob.
Shrewsbury?
No. Lewis and Jacob, but it's way uptown. I taught in a house. It was a house. The whole school was in the house. It was just a residence.
Would this be the east end of town?
Yes, it's on Jacob Street.
On Jacob Street.
I'm not familiar with Jacob.
Jacob Street is a dead-end street. It runs into what used to be Ashley's Bakery. It's the street above Morris Street. It's a Washington Street, and when you pass Charleston High School, you come to Morris. And then the next street is Jacob Street. It's a dead-end, and that's where I finished school, at Old Garnet High School.
That's where you first went.
And that's where I first went to school, yes. Now, Miss Fannie, what other schools did you, where else did you teach?
Well, I taught in North Carolina, and someday I've forgotten just the place, but
It's all right if you've forgotten the place. North Carolina.
and Duffield State.
Yes.
What subjects did you teach?
Well, I didn't talk to psychology and things like that, and because I had the teacher's training department when I was teaching, but when I thought you were about to ask me where I went to school, and that's what I taught in those schools. And methods, you see, that's what I started, the methods department down the state. And that's
You mentioned Bluefield. Would this be Bluefield State College?
State College.
Bluefield State College, and you taught at West Virginia State College?
Yes, and I was institute instructor. There wasn't any college institute instructors, but I saw a white lady with a pretty dress on, and I wanted to do that, and I went down to one of the men who had some influence and told him I would like to be an instructor. And so I became an instructor because I like to be.
When did you teach down at the West Virginia State College?
You know?
About what year?
No, I don't know.
Let me see.
Early 1900s?
I don't remember when Miss Fannie taught at West Virginia State College. But I think
I was there 12 years.
Were you residing then in Charleston and traveling to Institute, or did you live in the Institute?
I taught and went back and forth.
Back and forth. How did you get back and forth?
There was a train that ran just at the right time, at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I could come back at 4 o'clock in the evening, or there were 3 or 4 ways I could get back. But I stayed down there all the week and just came home
On the weekend?
I could have come home every day, but I didn't.
Miss Fannie, do you want to speak of your experiences as a teacher in Washington and your experiences as a teacher with the girls' home here in West Virginia? You have taught so many places.
I should like to reserve that for where I began. I began here in the primary grade, and then I went from here to Institute, and then I went from there to Huntington, and then I went from there to Washington, and I'd like to state how I took those steps up.
You want to do it now?
Well, yes, I guess I could. I came here to teach and taught the primary grade under Mr. George S. Lately. I guess it's been so long, and Ruth hardly remembers him. And then I was...
I do remember Mr. Lately because he hired me.
Mr. Lately, I was Mr. Lately's...
I read a book room downstairs, located on the first floor. It's named after George S. Lately.
Well, the president thing could happen to me as long as he lived. My mother used to work for him, too. And I carried his invitations when he married this Miss Bradford, who lived right out here on Capitol Street. And I carried the invitations out and ate the little bridegroom off the cake with another girl across the street. I remember when we sat out the yard and had a party, and this bridegroom on his cake was our party, and her name was Nona Wright. And we were just very little children. I was very little. I sat on a hassock in the front of the buggy when I carried the invitation out, and had on my new dress and things ready to go.
Well, now you were going to tell us about, we were going to talk about these other schools.
Yes, now let's see. Let me say we came from the primary grade to to institute. State superintendent asked that I be released to go to institute to start the teachers training department. I had done pretty well with it up here, and he felt that there should be, well, the governor said that there should be a teachers training department in all the schools.
Who was the governor? Doesn't matter.
Now, I remember him. Conley.
Governor Conley?
Governor Conley, I think it was. No, Governor Atkinson. George B. Atkinson. He decided that there were no teachers training departments in the schools, and he decided they were going to do that. And it took the primary teachers out of all of the schools to put them at the head of these. And so I went to institute, and some of us went to Huntington and other places. After that, I went to Huntington.
Marshall?
No, West Virginia. I started a home for colored girls. They had a home for colored girls, and they had a home for white girls up to Wheeling, I think it is, for unwed mothers. And our club women thought that we didn't have one, and we should have one, and we went to the legislature, got $30,000 to put into this home, and it was built at Salem, where the white girls' home was built, and it was named Lincoln. After that, I went to Washington. I was through and had retired, and I went to Washington and stayed there 17 years.
Okay, now, Miss Fannie, before you went to Washington, was it before or after that you spent and had such wonderful experiences at the West Virginia Industrial Home for Girls?
Well, that's after I went to Washington. I had the industrial home first.
You had the industrial. How many years were you at the West Virginia Industrial Home? You don't remember exactly?
Well, I don't know now, let's see. My husband died in 26, and that's why I left to go to Huntington, and I was offered that. And that comes in with the story I wanted to tell about Mrs. Ritz and people who lived up Canal Street. They always took somebody into something. As I look through their history, I see most of those white families had done something unusual for the Negro children who lived along the street. Mrs. Judge Ritz was the one that told the governor that he'd have to appoint me, and he said he had friends in Wheeling, I should say, and that he had felt obligated to. And he was lying in position to help him, and he wanted to do it. But he says, I'll tell you, that woman was so persistent that I don't know what that man would have done if he hadn't happened. And she called me, and she'd say, be ready, I'll be down here, get on 2 o'clock train, and be here at 9 o'clock in the morning, and be in the governor's office at 9 o'clock in the morning, and do so-and-so. And I'd be in my class, and I'd have to come and go and do what she said. And finally, the governor appointed me.
Now, this was at the West Virginia...
Now, down the girls' industrial home.
Yes. Miss Fannie, elaborate a little bit on it, because that was such a wonderful story. She went there, and there were bars up, and the girls were afraid, and Miss Fannie went down there, and through love, those girls just became the best citizens. And you know what Miss Fannie would do? Miss Fannie married them off to some of the finest people in the community.
I married off at Institute. Wherever I was, I married them off. Mr. Brown used to say that the certificates that we give down there, you know, if you went in this teacher's training department, you didn't have to take examination. And the girls would come there, and pretty soon they'd be getting married, and I got married too.
You said Mr. Perlman. Is it Mr. Perlman or Perlman Hall at West Virginia State?
He's Mr. Perlman, and he was the man that helped to establish that school. It wouldn't have, well, I don't guess it would have been there as soon as it was.
Was the West Virginia, the girl for homes, is that the girl?
No, she's speaking now of West Virginia State College. Mr. Perlman, that was Mr. Perlman's name. Mr. Bird Perlman was one of the early presidents of West Virginia State College, and it was under him that you...
No, I didn't go there under him. Mr. Perlman was the man who went to the legislature. I was at Storer College in school, and he and Chris Payne from Fayette County went to the legislature and said there should be a school for Negroes in this section of the state. Well, they couldn't just by themselves, and it fought through one legislature, and the school that I was in sent Mr. Applegrath up here to take care of Storer College so that they wouldn't make the school here, but they'd leave it. That was a state school for us, for state students. And he said they had, well, anyway, Mr. Applegrass said that he came here to the legislature to fight for Storer, and that he'd met a lion up here, and that was Chris Payne. He was a great orator. Everybody regarded him as that. And Mr. Perlman, they worked together to get the schools down to Institute. There was no school there. In 1 year, there was. They fought through the battle.
Was Mr. Perlman the first president?
No, he was not the first president. The first president came from Pomeroy. His name was James Adrian Cameron. He was a poet, and I have a book with some of his poems in it. But he got into trouble there, and it just ended. He had to leave, and then John Hill from Storer College. And then after that, all the Storer College were put in these different open schools. Storer College students became the heads of them. Well, so John Hill came from Storer College, and he'd been in the Army, and he was the person who became the president. And I don't know who was the next one. I don't remember.
Well, now you've spoken about your experiences at, you say you were 12 years or so many years at West Virginia.
Yes.
It was in the Institute, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. And then you went to Miss Nanny Burris.
No, Huntington.
You went to Huntington. Mm-hmm. Yes.
The Girls Industrial.
Girls Industrial Home. And then from there
to Miss Nanny Burris.
To Miss Nanny Burris. And
You were in Washington?
Washington, D.C.
What did you do there?
I was a dean of women in that school. I had retired here, and she wanted me to come there. We'd been friends through all of our younger life, and she just begged me to come there, and I went. I went without a salary. She was willing to pay me a salary, but I just wanted to help her, and so I went without a salary. My husband had died, and I didn't have any responsibility, so I went. I finally went. I didn't want to go, but I wanted to help her, and so I went there with no salary and stayed with her 17 years.
Tell Mr. Weatherich who Miss Nanny Burris was.
Well, her story is so long. So
Well, I mean, because we don't
Miss Burris had charge of a girls' school in Washington. She established it and went through a lot of hardship to establish it. And I went there to help her because she had to, well, she didn't have anything. She started from the ground. And I went there to help her, and I stayed there 17 years.
Wasn't she the...
And I became, well, when she died, I became the president. So that I went from the primary grade in Charleston to the president in Washington. Mordecai Johnson said to me, he said, now, you couldn't do it because said you did it in Washington and Huntington, and you didn't anybody before you, but says this great Nanny Burris has been before you now, and you have a lot of experience. But I couldn't keep it because I had my work here. I had trouble with my property.
Well, was Mr. Mordecai Johnson president of Howard University?
He was the president of Howard, and we were often together because we lived on South Hills. Where my house is, his house is right here, and he and my husband was an officer in his
Where do you live on the South Hills?
Out near the tank, back out that way.
Oh, yeah.
Miss Fannie owns
When I look at the tank, I can look right straight out from my porch.
Miss Fannie owns property there now. Your property is what address?
Well, right, look straight out in some apartments.
No, I mean on the hill.
Well, I own my house over there. There are no more houses, but there are plenty of lots.
I thought you owned the house there with Locust or up there.
I own my own house.
Well, that's what I need. I wanted you to tell him about that. He was asking you.
Well, this water right up on Davis Creek Road. It's right above Davis Creek Road.
No, I mean right as you look at Capitol Street and look at the water tank over there. I can look over my 18 down your porch and look at it. I can sit on the porch and look right straight through where my house goes. But it's a two-story brick house. You can see it easily from Bridge Road.
Miss Fannie, let me ask you this historical question. Were you in Charleston at the time the old Capitol burned?
Yes.
The old Capitol burned.
Oh, don't ask me that. Because I was playing hooky. I expect you to know.
You was playing hooky. You were playing hooky.
It burned in 1919. Are you talking about the old Capitol that was right here on the Diamond property?
Yes.
It burned.
1921.
1921. Yes, 1921.
Well, now, the college school, the Wesleyan school, the something that happened to our school up here on this street, up on the Quarry Street, and we had to go to a little school down on Clendenin. And we were down there, and this place burned, and we came up here because there was another school.
Miss Fannie, wait just a minute. Let me get this straight. He's talking about 1921, when the Capitol burned on the site of the dime. Well, I think you're talking about an earlier burning. I think
The Capitol, on the corner of Capitol, and
the Capitol burned in 1921.
I'm talking about that one, because now I know it is the one I'm talking about too.
Is that in 1921? The diamond?
Yes.
Is that
I don't know about the diamond, but I do know too. It was right on the corner. The Capitol was right on the corner.
But it was 1921. Well, that's not too important, but the Capitol did burn it was 1921.
It was a big fire, exciting.
Exciting, yes. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
We ran from the school down there up here and sat on the bricks to watch it. And our parents didn't know we hadn't been to school. That was the school we should go to, this school up here. And we slipped off this Friday, and we slipped off down here. And the fire came, and we came on up here and stayed and watched till time to go home and went to school.
All right, then we won't talk about that anymore. Let's talk about, Miss Fannie, do you want to, now you've mentioned the schools where you taught, and
The schools where I studied.
and the schools where you studied.
I mentioned them.
Yes, and there is a question here, I wondered whether you want to talk about. What are the names of some of your successful students, and what did they do in life? Do you want to talk about that or not? What are the names of some of your successful students, and what do they do in life? That's so broad. I wonder if you would even touch
I wanted to
that.
take it up, but I won't take it up today. Let's talk about the schools I studied in, because I always was
All right.
from school to school.
All right.
Well, now, as I said, I graduated from Storer College and from Charleston Public Schools. And then from Hampton, I studied at these schools, at Hampton, at Oberlin, at Ohio State, at Chicago University, Columbia University, and two college schools I just can't call up, and I've known them just as well, but I couldn't call them up, and Knoxville College. Now, that is one of the very fine schools that I studied in, and found so many New England teachers that were so friendly and so close. All of them been friendly enough, but they were so close that I learned so much from them at Knoxville. You don't know about that.
No, I don't.
The reason I went to these other schools so often was because I became the training teacher at Institute, and I wanted all the new methods, and I went every summer to these different schools.
Miss Fannie, how many years did you teach? Do you know how many years you taught all together?
Yes.
How many years?
Well, you know, I started in 1901.
And
1901.
That's when I started, in 1901.
then we went to Washington in 27, a year after your husband died.
But
And you stayed 17 more years, so 27 and 17, 44 years, 44 at least.
I know 50-some.
I said at least 44, but I can count.
I knew I was longer than that, but that's what I have done.
Oh, yes, Miss Fannie has taught many, many more years than that, because I remember she taught me in the first grade, and then she taught my son, you see,
In
and
the second grade.
yes, so she has taught through the years. I mean, we just can't remember. All right, now was there anything else that you wanted to say today? Did you want to talk about organizations that you
I
belong
wanted to talk about Oberlin, about going to Oberlin. Mr. Shaw, Reverend Shaw, he made a great stride here in our schools. We were just going along, teaching, going nowhere to get more information. And he came from Oberlin, and he just tore up the town. He said we were drinking out of a dipper. one dipper in the bucket, and everybody drank out of the dipper, and he just started the newspapers and fussing about things until he said that I was the youngest, and I must go to school. And he put me on a train, sent me to his friends in Oberlin, and they met me, and they took good care of me, and I went there 3 years.
Miss Fannie, and tell Mr. Woolridge who Reverend Shaw is, the father.
I'm going to, Mr. Reverend Shaw seemed to me was the first break in I don't know what you call it, but we seemed like we didn't know anything to do but just what we were told to do, and we taught where we were told to teach. But Mr. Shaw came here, and he just stirred up everything. And then he took me up, and this is what I thought was a great thing. I used to go to their house. I was the youngest teacher, and he would have me to his house to dinner. Well, that was a great honor. I thought it was wonderful. And to see him sit up at the table and feed his family and have everything around his plate, I said, when I got big, when I get married, I'm going to have my husband do that. Until he died, he had to do it.
Well, now I'm confused. I thought that this Mr. Shaw or Reverend Shaw was related to Stella Shaw James. He's the wife of E.L. James. The E.L. James business here. The wholesale business, yes.
Well, he's the father of his wife. And I taught Stella and Eddie in the same grade. For instance, once I said the room was cold, and I said, don't come to school tomorrow, children. There's snow on the ground. Don't come to school tomorrow. The room is cold and will come. And Mr. Ledley said, why did you tell those people not to come to school? Did you tell them not to come to school? And I told him, yes, I did. He said, why did you do it? I said, do it. I said, because it was cold in here. Mr. Ledley walked around and put the windows up and down and stirred up the fire and filled up the stove and did a whole lot. And he said, then the next day he came back. And this little Stella, Eddie's wife, was sitting right under the window. And he said, children, is it cold in here? She said, yes, it was so cold yesterday we couldn't stay here, and it's colder now. Well, he didn't know what to think of her talking to him like that, but she just insisted told him just what had happened there.
Well, that's interesting that she is the Stella Shaw James is the daughter of this minister who is
so much.
Yes, I didn't know you went to Oberlin, Miss Fannie. You had so many experiences. Well, now let's see. Let's go on.
All right. You know, Miss Fannie, you said something that is very interesting to me, and I'm just wondering about your reaction. For example, you said you taught Mrs. Norman, you taught Mrs. Norman's son, and you taught Mrs. E.L. James, Mrs. James, and Mrs. James's children. How does it feel when the second generation comes into the classroom?
I love him to death. Crazy about them. You know, what do I call John? Gentleman John.
That's my son.
I'm just crazy about everything. Don't say John Norman to me.
Does it ever run through your mind, goodness gracious, I knew that young man's mother when she was in class.
I'm so proud of her. I don't know what to do. I'm going to live another 97 years because my children give me so much real joy. I said, so everybody thinks their children the best. I said, I never heard of one of my children being in the penitentiary. And when they went down the street, I'd say, now they were little and had these stocking caps on. I'd say, now when you go down the street, remember whose children you are. Sometimes they come back, somebody had done something. Child didn't remember whose children you are. What did he do? Well, if I did something that he oughtn't to do, and he did remember whose children he was.
Mr. Language, you know, they say that I've taught about 10,000 students. You see, I have taught many more years than, but you don't know how long I have taught. I really am a veteran teacher, you know, and that's what's so remarkable, that I am a veteran teacher and have taught for years and years and years. And then Miss Fannie taught me, and then Miss Fannie taught Captain Ferguson, who is much older than I am.
Yes.
You see, and
Used to have him dancing.
yes, and Miss Fannie could get, if she could corral all of the persons, it would be legion. She has touched the lives of so many persons, and it's just so wonderful to live and to be revered as Miss Fannie Cobb Carter is. The name Miss Fannie Cobb Carter just is synonymous with love, first of all, and respect. And you just, and I tell my students now, so with the Job Corps, they know Miss Fannie. They haven't seen her, but I quote, Miss Fannie said, so much to learn, so little time to learn in. Miss Fannie said that you must accept compliments graciously. Miss Fannie said, you see, she'll never die as long as she lives, because we're passing on to our students what Miss Fannie said. Now, I wonder if we've kept her long enough. I wonder if we should do, was there anything else, Miss Fannie, that you wanted to say today? We were going to talk about organizations, and we were going to talk about organizations and students. Did you want to talk further about students on this, or what's on your mind? You want to talk about, since you retired, after you retired, what have been some of your activities? Well, right now, what do you do? How do you spend your time? I'll tell you one thing. She reads. She sits up late at night. I wish you could see the books that she has in her room. She reads. And what else do you do? She writes letters to the governor. She writes letters to the mayor.
I was in the Salvation Army today. If I give them little things, I say nice things about their work. And it was such a nice letter I got in the Salvation Army today. I didn't send them much, but it was a letter, a check that I had there for Christmas, and it had got out of place. And I sent it to them and said something nice about their work. And I learned that if you want to get along in the world, you have to be a friend to everybody, and you have to see their side. I can, colored people are getting to the point that we are just as, got as much hatred sometimes as you do have. We find that we've got that to break down. We've got a lot of things to do that's going to help us along. We are not moving along in West Virginia as fast as I think we should. We had buildings. We had a large building that was built by colored people out here. We had the hotel that the Fergusons had.
Name the building, Miss Fannie?
KP building. KP Hall was out here on the corner. And it had 3 stores. It met every need. It had a place for stores. It had a place for shops along the side. It had a place for business in the middle. It had a place for recreation on the 3rd floor. A large place. It was, you know where it was, don't you?
Down here in Washington.
It was on the corner of Washington and Dickinson Street, and Mr. Norman's office was in that building. In fact, that's where I met Mr. Norman, and he teased me through the years, saying, I didn't come to your house, you came to my office.
What did Mr. Norman do?
Mr. Norman was the first Negro registered, I'm not saying it well, but he was the first Negro architect to be registered in Charleston. Yes, he was. That's when Mr. Norman came here in 1918, and he came to Charleston because he thought it was such a beautiful place. He liked the hills and he liked the rivers, and of course he stayed here until he died.
He wasn't a native of
he was a native of Oxford, North Carolina, but he loved Charleston and practiced here until he became disabled, and he died in 1967. Miss Fannie, but back to you now. We were talking about some of the things that you do in retirement. She's now weeping because all these organizations are honoring her and having receptions for her, and
they've given me so many things. Miss Petite said, I don't think they've quite understood you at date so-and-so for you. I said, don't tell anybody anymore. I've got some of everything. And then some every kind of thing. I said, I look sometimes and I say, and next tears come in my eyes. I think I certainly can't be worthy of all the fine things that my students do for me. They've done it since I've been back, and they did it. I had a card from a girl in New York, and she says, the littlest angel. I had another from Arthur Jackson. He was one of my famous teachers. Arthur Jackson, I was his first teacher, just like I was Ruth.
Well, Mr. Jackson was not like Ruth.
Yes, and I was his first teacher, just like Ruth. He started just at the bottom.
I knew
And
Mr.
he calls
Jones.
me Mother Superior. He calls me that when he writes to me.
Yes.
But this other, I never have gotten this little disabled angel.
Well, how long have you lived at the Mother's Relief?
Yes.
I've been there about 10 years,
10 years.
ever since I left Wilson.
What is a typical day for you? What time do you get up in the morning?
Oh, I get up any time. I go to bed at 6 o'clock sometimes.
6?
And then I'm generally up by 8 or 9. I don't stay in bed.
You mean you go to bed
At
sometimes?
6 o'clock, and I'm going up no man. Up the hall, I'm going from...
What do you mean 6 o'clock when, Mr. Fannie?
6 o'clock a.m.
You're going to bed?
I haven't been to bed, just going up the hall to see what's
What
going
have
on.
you been doing all night?
Well, I've been reading. I read late last night. My eyes are always so when I'm just reading. I read lots of new literature.
And you go to bed at 6 o'clock,
In the morning.
and then when do you go to sleep?
Well,
When do you sleep?
I sleep about 8 o'clock.
8? And then
Yeah, I don't need much sleep. I didn't need it at Institute. At Institute, the boys who were the watchmen, they said, Miss Carter, are you up in your room? And I see you. I came by there at 3 o'clock and I saw a light burning. I told him, yes. He said, what are you doing? I said, I'm getting ready for you so you don't get ready for me. But I always stayed up. I never have had to have much sleep. I love to study
how
and
much
read.
time do you spend sleeping?
I don't spend much. Not much.
And then you're up again about at what time?
Well,
I guess it depends upon how
I
she
generally
feels.
hear the news when it comes on if I haven't already been to bed. But this time I was thinking about 6 o'clock. Miss Lewis came in. She said, when I came in at 6 o'clock and saw you sitting up there, have you been sitting up all night? I told her, no, I haven't been to bed yet.
Miss Lewis is Miss Mary Lewis, who was the executive secretary of the
Magazine. You know her?
Yes.
She was very unusual. Well, she has gotten a new job and her work is out of, well, she works with the university now.
Well, you can see Miss Fannie just, she reads, and through her reading, she keeps contact with life. You see, Miss Fannie doesn't mean to vegetate. She means to live as long as she's living, and her interests, you see, she's interested in everything that's going on because she's reading and knows what's going on.
Then I think I learned in these families that my mother worked in. You know, they didn't have, at first, I didn't have playbooks. I had the Scribner's magazine, and those are the kinds of books I looked at the pictures in, and then after I learned to read a bit, I thought all poetry was a speech, and I learned the speeches. And so I learned to talk and do what I wanted to do, and the kind of literature I read is just like all others read. I like United States News and magazines like that.
Miss Fannie, tell me this. Miss Fannie, what was the name of that white family, that Caucasian family that was so good to you? And you were telling me that they really were responsible for your first education. Was it the Ruffner family? It was is it the Ruffner Hotel?
No, they were all relatives, just one group of Ruffners, but they lived up there near the Capitol, and they just turned the house down. It was a frame house, and they used to have boys, and I used to just be with them when the boys would come. I remember a man came from the Canal Valley Bank used to come up, and I used to like to hear him talk about the war, and I just run along with them wherever they went.
Well, tell Mr. Winovich about this school. I thought that was so interesting. But didn't they have a tutor or somebody? Didn't the same person who taught their children teach you?
Miss C.C. Lewis, that wasn't the Ruffners. As I said, my mother was lived all up that street, and if they didn't, I knew them all because I lived on that street. But Miss Lewis, was it? No, it was the Lewises. The Ruffners taught me to read, and I learned to spell so that I've never been any place that I could not spell them. I went to Story College, and our spelling lesson was in the dictionary. You had 1 page a day. I could spell every word on the page, and when the school was out, I got the prize. I hadn't missed a word in a year. But because I was so well taught, I was just one child, and they taught me well. And then the Lewises, my grandmother lived with the Lewises, and her daughter died, and so my mother let me go down there to live with the Lewises. And Mrs. Lewis Richard didn't go to school. They had a tutor. And her name is Miss Wilcox, and she got a Valentine from her beau. She was going to be married, and she got a Valentine from her beau, and I was just as proud of the Valentine she was. And she put it up on there, and when I went into her room, I put it under the blanket and put the blanket on top to keep from getting any dust on it. And so that night, Mrs. Lewis came down, and she said, "I'd lie." She said, "Let Fannie go with me." And she did, and I went up and she took me in her arms and she said, "Fannie, honey, what did you do with Miss Wilcox's Valentine?" I gave it to her. And then she took me up, squeezed me up, and she took me back to my grandmother. And Miss Wilcox didn't teach there the next year. She had to teach me every night, but she didn't want to do that. But she did have to do that. And then when the Valentine came up, she had to leave.
The point that I think that I was impressed with was the fact that, as you know, and Miss Fannie knows, and as I know, that bigotry doesn't belong to any nationality. But these people with whom her mother lived were interested in her being taught. And Miss Fannie told me, I think I am quoting you correctly, that they would teach the Caucasian children. But then some family wanted her to learn too. And
this is the C.C. Lewis.
The C.C. Lewis's.
Brooks and Clark.
Is that an old family of here?
In the Clark Valley Bank, and I'd slid down the banisters in his face. He'd be coming up, and I'd be coming down. All of us slid the banisters. We had 3 children, and all of us would just slide down the banisters. And he'd be coming up, and I'd be sliding on down. And I went to his funeral. We went to every funeral, every wedding. We were part of it. And when we went to this funeral, the woman said, my mother and I went, and he said, what did you want? And we said, we came to the funeral. Well, how did you get here? I said, we were invited. And we sat right behind them. And they didn't have a funeral. I told Mama, I said, Mama, I wish I could have preached Mr. Lewis's funeral. He was such a good man. And they just groaned a little bit and went out. And I liked to preach his funeral. I lived there as a little child, and I never knew it that I was different.
Miss Fannie, you said they were associated with Canal Valley.
He was the president of Canal Valley.
Well, I always thought of Mr. Dickinson.
Mr. Dickinson was, but Charlie Lewis and Dickinson are the same thing. Lewis and Dickinson, and Charlie Lewis was the president at that time. Prince Dickinson was the president before.
Yes. I can remember Mr. Prince Dickinson. Yes, he was the president.
I remember C.C. Dickinson. I knew C.C.
And John Dickinson?
Well, I didn't know John Dickinson. Mr. C.C.
I know he's at the Malden, isn't he?
Pardon me?
Isn't he at the Malden? C.C.
Yes.
Well, John Dickinson was here. And I went, if anything went wrong in the clubs and things, and he had to go to the governor, I'd go up and tell him, I want you to go to the governor about so-and-so. I said, you haven't got any governor, but I'll go. What is it you want? I said, come visit any governor, but what is it you want?
Well, I think, Miss Fannie, this has been delightful. And we could talk on and on and on, with Miss Fannie, because she's just full of information. But maybe you'll have her back again, and we'll talk about
I want to talk about the development in our education, in our home, and what we want to do, our progress. I want to talk about that soon.
Miss Fannie, you take some notes or write some questions that you want us to ask you, and we want to thank you so very much, don't we, Mr.
Yes, we do. And thank you very much. We certainly appreciate this.
I declare, you don't know how scared I was thinking about this thing. I talk to you, and then I think about it, and I come back to that, and I talk to Mr. Wayne. I said, I don't know what they want me to do, and I'm going to do it.
You have done all right. We give you 8.
That's right. Beautiful.
All right. This is May the 1st, 1970. So glorious day, and it's just wonderful that we're able to be with Miss Fannie again on May Day. Miss Fannie, it's a lovely time to conclude this interview, isn't it, with you?
It was.
Well, now you talk to me. Miss Fannie, the last time you were here, you were talking about your home life your experiences as a teacher, your experiences generally, interesting information that, and what else did you talk about the last time that you remember, Miss
I
Fannie?
wondered if I summarized, Miss Norman, my experience as a teacher. I would like to do that.
Well, do that. Do what you want to do. We would just like for you to be happy and
can
say, yes, we can. All right. Now, what do you want to say, Miss
I
Fannie?
think I'd like to begin where I started in 1901 and where I ended in 1944.
1901.
That's when I started.
Oh, Miss Fannie, at the beginning of the century, at the beginning of the 20th century. Isn't that wonderful? All right, you just start. We'll just be so happy to hear you.
Summarizing, I'm trying to summarize what I did. I came to Charleston to teach. I graduated from Storer and came to Charleston to teach in 1901. I worked here till 1908, and I was appointed to open the Teacher Training Department Institute. I then was I worked there for about 12 or 14 years, and then I went to Bluefield. And from there I went to Bluefield, West Virginia.
Yes, but that
Institute first. I went to Institute. Then went to Bluefield.
It was called Bluefield Institute. Was it Bluefield
Institute, yes.
Yes, and you said you went to Institute, West Virginia State.
Institute.
What was the name then, Miss
West
Fannie?
Virginia
It was
Colored Institute.
West Virginia Colored Institute. And it wasn't until 1919 that they changed it to West Virginia Collegiate Institute.
I was there when they did it. I don't remember what year it was.
Yes.
I was there.
And now it is West Virginia State College.
Then I went from Bluefield to Huntington. The governor appointed me from Bluefield State College. I was living in Charleston, but I was just teaching over there, and he appointed me to the Girls Industrial Home this industrial school for colored girls. And I was the first superintendent, and it was located at Huntington. In the meantime, we had the West Virginia, the Women's Improvement League had gotten a place for colored girls, colored girls who were disorderly.
Yes.
And we went to the legislature to get money to put up a building. They had a white building for white girls at Salem, West Virginia, and we went to them for a building, and they gave the state legislature gave the Charleston Women's Improvement League $30,000 and $20,000 to build a building where the white girls were at Salem, and $10,000 for the furnishing. So that was the result of our club work, and I finally became the superintendent of the school, but it was located at Huntington because the people wanted it there. They thought it was more central. They tried it out at Salem, but it seemed like we didn't understand about that end of the country, and we didn't send anybody. So that $20,000 building was up there. And of course, Miss Sutton used it for the white girls and put the colored girls out to work in the different farms because she said they were obedient and they didn't need institutions. And so she put them out, and our president of the Improvement League went to look over things, and when she found it, she raised a lot of fuss.
Who was the president?
Miss Blanche Tyler.
Miss Blanche Jeffers Tyler, who taught me in the 5th grade, and after she was my second best teacher. You were my first teacher, and then in the 5th grade,
Where do I stand, Mr. Best?
you were my first teacher, my first best. My first best teacher. Oh, Miss Fannie, go right on. This is most interesting.
Well, when Miss Blanche went to Mr. Lake and the Board of Control was on Capitol Street, and he'd say, when that great big woman comes in, I just get scared. She just looks like she could eat you out. Well, she comes to say,
You better tell me who the big woman was. It was Miss Blanche Jeffers
Tyler, the president of the Charleston Women's Improvement League, who was the cause of the home being built at that time.
Excuse me, Miss Fannie. This organization is still in existence, isn't it?
I'm going to ask her about that in a minute because Miss Fannie was one of the charter members.
Yes.
And my mother, who is not living, would not be happy if I didn't say that my mother was a member of the Charleston Women's Improvement League, and I am. This is interesting about that club. Here's your point, Miss Fannie. That we are the daughters of these older women. The Charleston Women's Improvement League is the oldest club among Negro women in the state, and Miss Fannie Cobb Carter is the only living charter member. Right, Miss Fannie? All right, now go on, Miss Fannie, and say, let's see now, did I take you off your thinking? All right.
After it was moved to Huntington and I became the president, we had so many. The State Board of Control gave us a lot of advantage to do anything we wanted to. We came, we went, we spent money, $300 a month I had to spend myself. The people began to come up there and say, now, these towels and things that you're using in this institution, Miss Carter, does the state give to you? Tell them yes, and say, well, they're much better than we've ever had in our home, and we are the taxpayers. They built me a chicken house. They didn't allow any of them to have chickens. And Mr. Lincoln decided that if I wanted to, I could have chickens, and I had chickens. And the chicken house cost $1,800, and he wouldn't put the siding on that you could buy at Huntington. He sent to Cincinnati to get the siding, and he put us several rooms of them, one place to try the eggs out, see if they were fresh, and do canneling, I think he called them. He permitted us to do that, and the legislature came down to see about it, that we should have a better chicken house, and they had churches or schools for their children in the country, and there was quite a bit of considerable.
Was Mr. Lakin, but I want you to clarify this, was that the Mr. Lakin who was a member of the Board of Control, and for whom Lakin Field is named, and all that?
Yes, he is the grandest piece of furniture that ever lived in West Virginia.
Was Mr. Lakin...
Yes, Mr. Lincoln's father. Jim Lincoln, the post office. Right. He's just as white as he was the State Board of Control. But the children used to call him Daddy Lincoln. And whenever he came, he always emptied his pockets and put all the small change on the table for the little girls. But he was really a father to us, because I didn't know a thing what to do. I had never had incorrigible girls. And somebody told him, the governor said, you better leave her down to the institute where she belongs. So she won't understand their language. But they appointed me. Mr. Lincoln thought I ought to be there either. He thought I better stay down at the institute. But,
well, you comment on your success there, Miss Fannie.
Well,
I know you can't tell everything.
Well, we had wonderful success because we had wonderful friends. Everybody down there was helping us. The women's clubs gave us the best magazines, and the sheriff, and everybody helped us. And Mr. Lakin used to say, why do they give you so many things? They give me big gallons of candy, and I'd go to the store, they'd give me, with the girls played tennis, and give me a nice, something for me to play in. And everybody was nice. Mr. Lincoln used to say, have a man put a sewer so-and-so and so. I didn't know anything about a sewer. And I'd go to the sheriff, and he'd say, go out to Miss Carter's place and see about so-and-so and measure it and put it together so Miss Carter can put a letter to Mr. Lincoln. And I'd take it to him. I'd go to the post office, go in where I wanted and get anything I wanted. Mr. Lincoln said, well, what do you do down there? He says, these men come up here crying and say they can't do this and can't do that. And I tell them, you could do everything. I said, yes, I'm anything, and I'm going to do it. Didn't say that I'm a woman and I was beating the men. I told them, all the men in Huntington were helping me.
I think that's wonderful, but I think the thing that I want Miss Fannie to say is that through love, those were incorrigible those girls, and they tell me that there were bars up before Miss Fannie went down there. Miss Fannie had the bars taken down, and she treated those girls with warmth and with love, and those girls loved Miss Fannie, and they wouldn't run away or they'd do anything in the world for her. That's the main thing I think about that. Now, Miss Fannie, I don't want you to stay too long on that, because you have so many things to tell us about. Let's go on from Huntington Girls Home. Where did you go from there?
Washington.
All right, comment on there.
Miss Burris was very anxious to have me come and help her in her work. We had been friends all of our lives as young women, and when she took the school, it wasn't much when she started. And she wanted me to come and help her, and I went to help her. And she didn't have any money, she didn't have anything, but she was doing such a grand job that I was just glad to go into it and have no salary at all.
The name of the home is the
National Trade and Professional School
for girls.
for women and girls.
In Washington, D.C., and it was the great and the most distinguished churchwoman, Miss Fannie Burris, of whom we're speaking now.
Well, let's talk about her then a minute. She was like Miss Norman. She was a churchwoman as well as a teacher, but she was well known throughout the country, and many white women, especially the Kentucky women, just took responsibility for anything she wanted. They went out to get it. And Mrs. Hoover, who was very close to Miss Burris and sent Miss Burris on many errands to the South, where colored people would write her that they needed things or they crippled or something and didn't have a chance, and she'd send Miss Burris right down there and look it over.
Mrs. Hoover, the wife of the president.
For the president. And she conducted the Girl Scout tours on the campus of Miss Burris.
Yes.
Miss Burris was the president of the National Baptist Convention women, and she
was an orator. She was a historian. She was a churchwoman, and as you say, she was president of the women's division of the National Baptist Convention, which is about the greatest honor they can come to about a woman.
That's about it. Then we went to, she was put on the program for the World Sunday School Convention, and we went to the convention in Los Angeles. And the papers gave her, it was said that the papers gave her more publicity than they did anybody else. They said she's the first person that ever had talked in that temple, or whatever they call it, without a amplifier.
Is that so? I remember she had a powerful voice. Miss Fannie, speaking of travel, have you traveled out of the country?
Oh, yes.
Where did you go, Miss Fannie?
Well, I see I have a list of that.
Well,
I went to, let's see if I can't remember all of it.
Can't remember all?
Yes, I went, first of all, we went from here to Havre in France, and landed in France. And from there we went to...
When was this, Miss Fannie? What year? About what year?
1931.
1931. All right, you went to France. I don't want you to name all the places, but
let's name them, but let's go over some of them. I went to Belgium. I went to France. I went to Belgium. I went to Germany. Went to Ober-Ammergau, and that's why I was there, going to the Passion.
It's being enacted this year. Ober-Ammergau. Miss Goldsmith and Miss Lowry, the personnel director over the Diamond.